Hello and welcome to the Ham Utd Transfer Roundup, where we're taking all the news and gossip from the last few days of West Ham in the transfer window. Now I'm going to be getting the views of Charlie and Jason. I won't be giving mine tonight. If you want to hear that, you can join in tomorrow night on Wednesday, where I'll be sitting down with Gonzo for a cup of tea. And first rumour we're going to talk about is the one that came out today that West Ham bid just $5 million for Hardy Arter, which was turned down by Bournemouth and called almost an insult, really. But Charlie, Hardy Arter, is that the right player we should be targeting?
I don't think he considerably improves our midfield. I like Harry Arter. I think he's a decent passer of the ball. I think he works hard and gets involved, which is the sort of guy we kind of need at the moment. But I don't think he's particularly that much of an improvement, if any, at all. For $5 million, I would happily have him around the squad to get involved a bit. But to be honest with you, I'd rather we go for different targets.
Jason, yesterday it came out that we were interested in Arsenal's defensive midfielder Francis Coquelin. 10 million is the fee being bandied about. Would you like to see him at the London Stadium?
You know what? I think I would actually take someone like Francis Coquelin. I mean, he seems to almost be like a B-Tech William Carvalho, if the rumours would have you believe. But I think he's someone that could actually really improve our squad. We've been screaming out for a defensive-minded midfielder since the dawn of time, it almost feels like. And, he's got he's been in a top 6 team. I don't think he's going to have ridiculous wages. And he's also, I think, is he a French international? He may have featured in and around the squad. But to bring in a player of that quality and where we've always stressed that if we're going to put in transfers to actually have players that would come in and improve the squad, I think he would be able to slot in and definitely be able to screen the defence and hopefully link to the midfield, to the attack, hopefully as well. So, yeah, I'd definitely take him.
Charlie, what's your thoughts on the same player?
I'd take him. He's up there for the first couple I would actually take. I think that I find it quite funny actually that you just called Arsenal a top 6 team. But that's beside the point. I think he's an all right player. He works hard. Again, he can do the defensive side quite well. He's not the best in the world, but he can do it decent enough. He's a decent enough passer again because he's played for Arsenal, so he's got that side of his game to him. He's not astounding. He's not amazing, but he's on relatively low wages for a top flight player. I think he's only on about 45k a week, and then he's a reliable enough player. I don't think he's the greatest in the world, but in this sort of period, in this sort of window, I think he's probably one of the better ones we hope to get.
We're still sporadically linked to his teammate El Neni as well as Capuy of Watford. But the next player we're going to talk about is one that most fans are getting excited about, Jason. That's £20 million rated. Forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. Leander Dendecourt. Do you know much about him?
I would be lying if I said I was a bit of an expert on him. The only reason I've heard of him is because I'm a huge Football Manager fanatic, and I know he's usually a wonder kid that you keep an eye on. You bring him in when he's about 18, 19, and he turns into a legend if you nurture him and look after him all right. So where I might not have heard of him in a personal sense, I am a very big fan of him on the Football Manager scene, which has actually proven to have been quite on point lately in recent times. If you keep an eye on the stats of these wonder kids,
I think it's best to say nothing than to say that you're just a player Football Manager. Jason, let's take the player out of it for a second. He's been linked to Man United and Chelsea, etc. He's quite young. Is this a type of player we should be targeting, or is this the wrong window to be doing that?
If the player of his quality, if he has been earmarked by these top clubs as well, I think we'd be stupid not to consider bringing him in, especially if it's quoted at about 20 million. If he performs well in the World Cup, he could be 30 million, 40 million, X amount. You've seen how much these top clubs are willing to spend on these talents. Anthony Martial going for 60 million in and around that target. If he's available and at that price, I think we definitely got to snap him up. And even if he doesn't perform well, we'd definitely be able to sell him on for value or at a break even. So it's really no risk in my honest opinion.
Charlie, Jason describes it as no risk. Would you class this as a no-brainer?
He's my top choice. I think if he's available, then I would go for him. Again, I'm not going to claim to be an expert. I've only seen him a couple of times max. But for someone that age, we need to be looking at people that age to come in and stay in the team for a while. We need a guy who's more defensively minded. He's got that. He's versatile. He can play centre back as well. These are all qualities that we would be looking for. And unlike the last player we got from there, Kiate, he can actually pass the football. So for me, he's the sort of guy we should be looking for. I just don't think there's any chance of it happening in January. If he's got any hopes of staying in and around the Belgian team, him making a move to another league would be stupid for him personally. But if it were to be possible, that would be my first choice personally.
The interesting part about this transfer is, of course, this club, they're very open to selling the player like they did with Yuri Tielemans to Monaco. And the player is quite open about wanting to leave. The other transfer that came out today is Burnley's Scott Arfield for around about 2 million. Charlie, I'll come to you on this one first. He's had a big role to play at Burnley this season. 2 million, is this so cheap that you can't really go wrong, or is this the complete type of wrong transfer we should be looking at?
I think he's better than people give him credit for. He works very hard both going forward and coming back, importantly. I could see why David Moyes would be interested. He's a winger who will work in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-5-1 defensively at least. But if I'm being honest about it, we have Masuaku and Arnautovic who both play in his left wing position. Is he better than either of those? I don't particularly think so. He's only that cheap because his contract's coming to an end at the end of this summer anyway. So it's a sort of, you take this now and then you won't get nothing in the summer sort of deal. And they haven't even accepted it. So for me, I like him. I wouldn't be against him being in our squad at all, but I don't think it's actually worth pursuing.
Jason, what do you make of the transfer links to Scott Arfield?
To be honest, it just looks like David Sullivan's loading up his scattergun again. I mean, I think I noticed that every window we seem to be making a bid for a rival team player. You know, so the Joe Allen of this year is the like the Gylfi Sigurdsson of last year, or Robert Snodgrass or whatever. It just seems like we put these bids in knowing that it's going to be rejected, but to sort of turn the player's head and potentially unsettle the team. It's a trend that I've been noticing a lot lately, and I think David Sullivan's made every intention of making that bid knowing it's going to be rejected, but just having that player's head turned, or, you know, maybe doing something that could potentially derail Burnley's push, or, you know, to hopefully bring them down into the mid-table relegation scrap as well. But I can't see Burnley accepting the offer because, I mean, I think they would probably rather take the hit on him leaving at the end of the season for free than taking the 2 million and trying to find a player of that caliber who would perform as well as he has done in the Premier League as well. If we could get him for 2 million, fantastic. We're a little bit overloaded on the left, as Charlie mentioned as well. But if we could just get some wingers in at the very least, you know, we could always have him on the right and he can cut in on the inside. But this to me just smacks of just David Sullivan trying to unsettle rival clubs just for the sake of it.
In the last video I did, which was with Tom and Mike, as we said that the #1 target was Jonjo Shelvey. Now that has not changed, and there's reports that's getting inching closer and closer, and the deal between the clubs and West Ham and Shelvey is pretty much done for around 12 million. They're just waiting on Newcastle to sign a replacement before he can leave. Charlie, Jonjo Shelvey, 12 million. What's your thoughts?
No, thank you. You're right. He's an okay part. He's a decent enough passer of the ball. He can hit a long-range shot. He can hit a long-range pass. Is he an improvement on what you've got? I don't really think so. 12 million is probably the most amount of money our board would be willing to spend in this window anyway. He was reportedly on stupid money at Newcastle. I think it was something like 80 grand a week. If we're paying anywhere near that and a 12 million fee for a guy who barely improves our midfield, if at all, I think it's a stupid decision, and I don't particularly see why we do it, apart from the fact he's a West Ham fan, and that's not part of my criteria for players we should sign.
Jason, what's your thoughts on the same player and transfer?
In theory, he has the makings of making himself a bit of a cult hero here. You know, West Ham fan through and through. He's got a bit of a nasty streak in him. You know, maybe people could pull comparisons to Canio. You know, he's fiery, he's a bit passionate. He gets silly red cards, so it really could swing either way of really making an impact in the team. And, you know, he will fight for the shirt if he, you know, as he is a West Ham fan at the end of the day. But I think we've got to be realistic at the same time. Say 12 million for an English player in the January transfer window. I think I would probably take it just to have him in and around the team. But I feel like we always should be setting our sights a little bit higher than Jonjo Shelvey. But at the same time, it does weaken a relegation rival at the same time in Newcastle. And will they be able to find a player of his caliber for £12 million? That will be able to adapt to the Premier League. I think they would probably struggle. So I think we should probably just bite the bullet and go for it.
Some of the rumours, which we're not going to discuss too much tonight, is Diafasako being linked to Everton and Newcastle. Danny Ings is still sporadically linked to West Ham on loan, and Lanzini's move to Liverpool. Well, the odds are shortening in the bookies, although there's no real evidence of serious interest from Liverpool. Charlie, 9 days in, 0 transfers done. Are you worried, or are you still quite calm?
Not particularly worried. I think the players that we have are good enough to get us out of a relegation scrap. I don't particularly so I'm not massively concerned in that sense. But my worry is more that we're yet another window in, and it continues to seem like there's no organisation or sense of logic to the way we move in the transfer market. We've had months and months to prepare, and then we turn up and try and bid 2 million for Scott Arfield and flip in 5 million for Arter. It's not like, whoa, we've done it, boys, we've cracked it. It's more panic buy maneuvers. That's my bigger concern, rather than we haven't signed anyone yet.
Jason, same questions. Are you worried or quite calm? It's 9 days in, there's 23 days to go or something.
I wouldn't say worried either. It's still pretty early days. I think every sort of Premier League club at the moment is sort of keeping their cards close to their chests, not to sort of it will kickstart a merry-go-round, I think. And I think I was saying to you guys a bit earlier, I think Southampton will be the first ones to sort of kickstart everything with the Van Dijk money, burning a hole in their pocket. So I think a lot of the activity will go down to the last week and maybe even deadline day itself, once clubs know where their squads are and have replacements lined up. But as Charlie definitely mentioned, we definitely seem to have a lack of foresight, especially when we have so many glaring areas of where we need to improve, such as a defensive-minded midfielder, some right-sided wingers, even just cover at right back. But I have a feeling that maybe David Moyes, and probably more importantly David Sullivan, is probably thinking when Sam Byron comes back, he's going to be like a new signing. I mean, Antonio's fit again, he's going to be like a new signing. And maybe they're just sort of keeping their fingers crossed that once these players come back, we'll have enough about us to get us over the line. But am I worried at the moment? No, not yet.
These two aren't too worried. You can let us know if you are in the comments below, and drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow night, which is Wednesday at 8:30. So you're watching this after Wednesday. The video's on the channel and be on your screen right now. Whereas me and Gonzo will be sitting down with a cup of tea and going over all the transfer rumours and having our say on what we think is going right or wrong at West Ham United. Thank you for joining us.